Record. Hey there, welcome to the Be Insightful in Technology podcast. Thanks for joining us as we dive into the world of technology where we share knowledge, wisdom, and insight. I'm Shy.
And I'm Byron, and we're your hosts. This podcast is all about bringing together a community of tech enthusiasts who are excited to share their experiences, what they love, what they've learned, and even what they might leave behind in their journeys. Our goal is to inspire and share valuable tips for anyone eager to step into the technology field and kickstart their careers. So let's embark on this inspiring adventure together.
We hope you're having a great time here. If you're loving the experience, why not stick around? Subscribe to the podcast and join us weekly for more insightful episodes. Okay, we can get started now. All right, so let's start with the health check-ins. So, hey Brian, how you been? What you been up to? How are you?
I have been good. Good is I don't know, good is a way to put it. Good is a way to put it, but growth. Good coupled with growth is how I have been.
Oh, been getting out of your comfort zone?
Yes, for better or for worse. Yes.
That's at least good to hear. Go ahead.
Well, am I supposed to like get into like details of what I've been doing, or am I supposed to flip it back onto you and be like, how have you been?
This is the flip section. So
Okay.
yeah, we'll get into details in the current state part.
Okay. Well, how have you been yourself?
I have been making it through. I feel like I'm coming up out of the hole I was dug into because now I have support. So I am good now.
Oh, that's always good to hear. Going from doing it alone to doing it with help.
Right?
I'm not the best when it comes to accepting help, so.
And eventually we got to talk about that.
What is that? What you mean?
Because help is one of those things where if you get some good help, it is going to change the way you operate. And think about I don't know if you ever want to step into leadership. We can kind of discuss that later. But being able to delegate and let other people take care of the stuff for you or, with you is so much better than doing it by yourself. What's that thing? What does it say? If you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, go together. Yeah.
But I'm taking in I'd like to add an annotation of, but remember everybody can't go. Go together, but remember everybody can't go.
Some people will get left off at their destinations that they chose to be at.
And some people in the car can get dropped at the gas station.
But so far in today's episode, we're going to go over our career check-ins. What have we been up to? We talk a lot about other people and what they're doing, but we want to bring more of who are we and what do we even do? Who are we to talk about career development on this podcast, right? Without really sharing where we're at, right? So we're gonna get into the current state of our careers at this moment. Byron, you want to start it?
Sure. Crazy enough, it was my 2-year anniversary at my current job, 2 days ago. So, man, everything happens for a reason. The timing, if you will. But I have been in IT since I graduated in 2019. I've been professionally in IT since I'd say about 2017, 2018. I started doing a co-op internship kind of gig with a company in my home state. And from there, I think took on my first actual IT role outside of a school curriculum or internship or anything. Like your standard, you apply to a job and interview for a job. In 2020, was actually out of state. I moved to Colorado out of state in 2020. Started working at an MSP for about 2 or 3 years and moved over to a different aspect of IT support. It's like help desk is the more general term that people coin it by. But now I do ad tech support, which is a lot different than what I was doing with, your standard Microsoft products or troubleshooting mailboxes and retention policies and security and compliance of endpoint management and stuff like that. This was a complete 360 from that. So now I'm dealing with ad breaks and commercials and creatives and rendition attributes and bit rates. So it's very different. But yeah, I've been there for 2 years. Started August 15th, 2 years ago. And I knew absolutely nothing about the space and grew to learn more over time and experience. For me, experience is absolutely key when it comes to taking on new ventures, because in this industry or in life in general, you'll have to pivot into different things from what you originally were doing. And I feel like that's the only way to really know, like, if you like something or not. If you like the change in that something, then I feel like you'll actually be able to tell if you'll be able to dedicate a large amount of your time to it.
You really have to
Um,
constantly learn in this field.
yes, but you have to be open to it. Like people that are
Mhm.
against change, like I've in my many conversations and dialogue with different people over my stint so far, people that are against change are always on the other side of the fence of what's to come. And
Mhm.
I don't ever want to feel like I'm on the other side of the fence of progression. So, um, and I feel like that's what I like most about tech is that it's always going to get better, or I guess retrofitted for what you need it for at the time. And it could even, have the capabilities of, stuff that you haven't thought of, down the line. So it makes you think, for me anyway. It makes you think.
It keeps you on your toes. It's one of those things, if you like change, you'll never get bored because something is always changing.
Yes, but it can be overwhelming for people that aren't
Yeah.
used to consistent and abrupt change at times.
Yeah. It's like one moment you're doing something this way, and then the next moment you have to change the entire way you're doing it or what you're using to do it. You got to learn a whole new system. I would say with this, it sounds like you have to constantly adapt to a new environment. And if you are one of the people that don't like change, it just won't work out for you because tech is ever changing. That's the most constant thing in tech, change. It's the same thing in life as well, change.
Like if you think back to like the stuff you felt you had to know for your job when you first started, like before you got the offer letter, to what you feel you have to know for your job now, is it like vastly different?
Yes, honestly, okay, I was gonna talk about it, but you brought it up so early. The skills that I needed for my job outside of just the technical understanding, like the foundational part of it, are so much more than what I expected. And I'm not even mad at it. It's just a very different avenue that I thought I was taking. But I learned to adapt to it and be able to be open. I realized in like I know for sure one of my past internships, I was not open to the change or the things that I was learning because I felt that it wasn't in line with what I wanted to do, network engineering. I felt like if it wasn't touching or logging into network equipment like routers and switches, this wasn't it. But I definitely discounted the amount of value that I could learn and take on because I still get inquiries in my email about jobs learning that technology. But I
Hmm.
was so I was honestly hard headed and like tunnel visioned during the internship that I didn't even really like take in the information and the skills that were trying to be taught to me. So that was an experience I had to learn from for sure.
So what do you feel like your I guess to tie that into, I guess, everything, what are you currently doing and what, I guess, were you doing? Has there been any change in that, I guess, your role specifically?
So right now I'm a network engineer. I work in the data center space. I primarily do deployment of networking equipment, switches and routers, just setting those up so that way they can be in production, serving traffic from, inside the buildings to outside, world. And I've been doing that for network engineering specifically like 2 years. Before this I was doing help desk and stuff, so I would say, did you ask like how it changed?
Like, aren't you a senior now?
So technically I'm still junior, so we have different levels. I got hired in pretty much right after I finished my 2 year, not 2 year. I did 2 years at a technical school, technical college, and then I did 2 years at a university. So after
Hmm.
I finished like my full 4-year degree, basically. I got hired on as like a university grad hire, so more like entry level or junior. And I will say the transition of that it felt like a astronomical difference of what I was doing. Um, so it definitely I had to take on so much more responsibility very early. I would say like very early in my career, taking on so much responsibility. And let me see, when it came to like the changes, I had to dive into the thinking of more than just my tasks. So thinking like, how can I improve, from a team perspective, from a global perspective. So the thinking began to be like more outward versus just inward on like what I'm doing only. So
Now, if I could ask, if you could like, I don't know if this is going to be outside of what we wanted to talk about, but I feel like you bring up a great point with like having to focus on not what you're doing for the team, but what the team's doing for the team, and like those processes in place and how you go about executing those processes and stuff. Um, a lot of people, I feel like, listening to this are probably more on the individual contributor side. So it's like
mm,
for them, their job begins and ends with their duties and what they're assigned and their direct manager and whatnot. But it's like, how do you highlight the value of being able to invest in your team outside of what you do in your role?
ooh, how can I explain it? So I would say for one, I feel like I have a great manager. So when it comes to the overall perspective of the team, he's able to articulate that very well to us, and we're able to actually take action on that. When it comes to just me, recently I was taking care of like my job by my like at my location for a minute just by myself. And it came down to like, how do I want to be represented? Because basically the team became me. I am the team. So it's like, how do I want myself and my team to be represented by our cross-functional partners, by the people we interact with? And that changes the perspective of like how they handle, if say a visitor from our team came in, how would they, react to them? Would they be more likely to speak with them, meet with them, get to learn about more of what we do? So
Hmm.
essentially, kind of my part in it felt like, what was the brand that I want our team to represent? So like that felt like the outer layer of it, from a outside perspective of people not entirely doing what we do. When it came
Hmm.
from the internal perspective of it, it began to be, how well can we handle the workload as a team? How well can we contribute with one another, support one another? Because at the end of the day, we are technically all one. Like, we're all trying to reach the same goal, the company goal, company mission. We're all trying to reach that. So how well can we collaborate with one another to push it forward? That was the focus. That was the mindset going into it, especially when I knew that, hey, I might be the single point of contact for a minute. What can I
Hmm.
best do to uphold the reputation of the team, the site? Because we got busy. Like, it had, I think from January, we just got done with the first half of the year. From January till now, it's probably still busy. It's still, I'm not one of those people to really crumble under pressure. I want to, see it through. I want to come out triumphant at the end.
Right.
So it's like, what can I do to ensure that like my team isn't falling through, like, to the best of my abilities? Because at some point work-life balance was not balancing. But like, what can I do?
Ooh, wait. Yeah, I would say that hit home, and that's why I felt bad because I had to cancel on our meeting on, was that Thursday? It was Thursday or Friday? Because I normally get off the time that our screening or pre-screening would have been, but they asked me to stay late because there's only like two people on shift and one person, hadn't been to lunch yet. And so it's like I could just leave. My job's, I'm done. I'm
Mhm.
good. I'm cool. It's Friday. Um, whatever. Like, they deal with it, that's on them. But I don't know. There was something about it that just didn't sit right with me. So I wanted to help. So I stuck around. And some people might feel, even at their detriment because, oh, I could have been doing something else, or, work cuts into personal time. And, I don't find that conducive to the way that I, do my day to day.
Mhm.
Um, and so it's like, and what's crazier is before this call today, I was watching a video on YouTube of this guy who's a software engineer out in Dallas, and he was talking about how, some of the responsibilities of like further progressing yourself and taking on, more to see how far you can go, kind of thing, might call for those kind of situations or circumstances of you having to stay later than you normally do, or you having to pick up a task last minute that, just got dropped in your lap or something like that. Um, and it's, I guess, not about what we're responding to, but how we respond to it is
Mhm.
really like the pertinent part of it. And I feel like being able to take that kind of to take that kind of like, I guess, option and channel that into anything that you do, but also like retain the kind of like space for yourself to be able to like come down from, the, I guess you could say, the trials of life or what people are asking of you. You have to have some sort of like path for,
Mhm.
what you're doing. So I feel like keeping that in mind and carrying that with you is important.
And I want to talk on that because recently I've definitely come to understand it's like how you do one thing really does like seep into how you do everything else. And right now, I know in my career I have felt kind of lost because
Hmm.
I got that work-life balance felt like it was leaning a lot towards work. And it's mainly I had to figure out like, do I identify with my career? And if I do, what can I do to step out of that? Because I am more than just, what I do for work.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
I have to really plan that out because mentally I could do my job, but it was becoming a lot because when you're doing the job of multiple people as well, I'm not 15, 11 people, okay? So having the confidence to actually, ask for help because help is one of those things where it's really not a bad thing. It's really not. So ask for help, but also I had to understand that at the end of the day, I was still responsible, even if the person didn't do something or, however it panned out.
Right.
I was still contacted for certain things that may have been delegated over. And my structure into that was it felt overwhelming. It felt so
Hmm.
overwhelming because I'm in the growing pains era of my career. Let me say that. The growing pain era where basically I can really make the decision of am I going to work towards a promotion? Am I going to work to like how hard am I going to push myself to get to that next step, that next milestone in my career? Do I
Yep.
want to coast? Like, or do I want to get promoted within the next couple of months? Like, what am I doing? So I've been bouncing back and forth between that idea, and I want to say my main thing for my career checking, my main thing is like, what am I outside of my job?
Have you taken complacency into the comfort that your role has provided you because it's something you set out to do?
Right? Because
Or-
I am now at the point where when I had my 5 year goal, I am now at that point. I've been at that point for 2 years. Basically, I kept thinking like, what does my next 5 years look like? Because I'm a planner. I'm
Mhm.
here now. I'm here sooner than I thought I'd be here. What am I going to do now? And
Yeah.
I would say like it feels hard to say I'm complacent when I've been doing so much that's like good on my record, right? Like
Right.
I'm doing the stuff that, means I'm going for a promotion or something like that.
But
But
it's like, do you only feel fulfilled at work?
right. And part of it is I stepped into more of I can explore the other stuff type of role, but my day to day wasn't as fulfilling when I was learning it. And I feel like that's typical. Like, as soon as you learn something, you feel like you got to hold on it. Now it's time to do the next thing. And that's normally how I operate. I like to learn something. I like to continue moving. That's just how my brain functions. So I'm really not at the point where I'm unfulfilled because it doesn't feel like I'm done with it. I like what I get to do. I like the experiences that I get to have. I'm just really wondering like what more do I want? Because I'm also figuring out myself in the process, and like I feel like my interest in things are changing. Like who
Mm-hmm.
I am is changing.
And it's hard to like try to gauge or put like a lens on that because you haven't been where you currently are before. So it's like
Exactly.
you're still grappling with trying to like have a foundation where you've solidified yourself in the last, 12 to 24 months. So it's like in all that you are doing, are you taking pride in, I'm not going to say taking pride, are you taking appreciation in the process more than you are the outcome, or the fact that you can, consistently set these different goals for yourself and meet them? Because at one point, like for a lot of people, it's the absence of opportunities. And for some people, it's the absence of execution in those opportunities that they have, accessible to them.
Have you felt like that's come up for you?
Uh, yes, because I feel like yes, professionally, because I'm in a space that I haven't been before. With what I was doing before, there was a trajectory that I had kind of set up for myself,
Mhm.
subconsciously, but I didn't know if I wanted to stick with it for sure. And, considering, how things have been in the industry with consistent layoffs from large corporations, like who knows how that would have turned out, but we'll never know because, I didn't make that choice. But with what I'm doing now, I love a lot of the aspects of it over what I was doing. But for me, I want to have more of a, I guess, more of a direct impact on, I guess, what I can provide to a team instead of what can I provide to an account.
Mhm.
So when you asked about leadership earlier, I could see myself doing leadership. I just don't know in what facet that looks like because, you know, I feel like leadership is more than just being able to talk to people and train people. I feel like it's being able to like feel like what you're doing is like, I'm not gonna say justified or ordained, but like like being a leader is I guess tasking yourself with like making someone else successful or like making someone else like do what they're doing well. And but by example. And so it's like until I feel successful on my own in what I'm doing, it'll be hard for me to transition into trying to apply that to someone else and bring them up in a professional setting kind of thing. Not more of a coaching, career development sense, but more of a because I feel like that's harder for managers because a lot of the managers nowadays aren't technical managers. They're just, you know, they're good at management, not, products. And
Mhm.
so my manager has like some background on what we do, but like in terms of, boots to the ground, like I feel like he would try, but he's not a technical manager. So it's like I feel like that's where that would mesh because I was asked this before by my TA at my previous role. Like, do I see myself doing management or do I see myself continuing with support or doing engineering or tier two or tier three? And I was like, I like the changing aspect of technology and the changing aspect of what comes with support because people will always have problems that they need help with. And it doesn't even have to be general help desk because a lot of people talk bad on help desk like it's just this, like it's grunt work almost.
Mhm.
But a lot of the value that companies get from other, business to business partnerships or working with other clients or companies is that first line of defense, which is the support team. And the support team handles a lot of the initial outcry from clients. And I feel like um, there should be more respect on support engineers, to be
They
honest.
really should. Okay, so I have to talk about something. I work in support, couple years. And honestly, a good support tech makes you want to come back and do business.
Hmm.
I went to Toyota to get my car serviced yesterday, and I went in there, like even in person, they're just, having to put you in the system and all this other stuff, but it shows the value of like customer support in general. I went in there, literally nobody spoke to me. They didn't say, hey, it'll be a couple minutes before we see you. I'm glad you're here. Thanks for waiting. Nobody said a thing to me.
Hmm.
And I was just like, I'm at the age where, so you're not gonna speak?
Really? Right?
Like, you're not gonna say anything? Like, I'm coming here to do business with y'all, and you're not even gonna, you know, look my direction. And I was just thinking, like, customer support these days is such a valued asset. It really is. Because it's not everywhere. Like some
At
good
all.
customer support, some great customer support is not everywhere. I ain't even gonna lie. I bought a car yesterday at Honda because I was just like, at this point, I don't need Toyota.
And people like, oh wow, just because no one said anything to you. And it's like if they won't say anything to me in the interest of spending money, like I don't feel like there's anything else that I could like leave up to them to show me that they'll, you know, I guess do right by me. Like the initial impressions are like everything in situations like that, especially in our consumer market. Initial
Mhm.
impression is not who does it first all the time, but who does it right. And I feel like that was the same kind of like issue I had with like doing the whole Tesla process that we talked about back in like
Mhm.
April. And it's like in the process of me selling my Mustang versus the process of me buying my Tesla are two different, like completely different things.
Mhm.
And the value that I got from the purchase versus the sale just showed me that things can change outside of what they used to be because people are accustomed to car dealerships and having to uh, swindle and make a bargain for a deal, and it always works out better in the car dealership's favor to the point where people show up with their own financing because they don't want to be haggled.
Mhm.
Whereas if I tell you this is the price and that price doesn't change and that's just the price, no matter what I say, no matter what the salesman says, that's just the price and that's what you pay. Like I feel like that's just a lot more straightforward way of doing business. And if it's something as like as much of a necessity as a vehicle is, I feel like as it should be as high touch but low effort as possible. And that's
And
where those techs come into play, like you were saying.
it's like knowing that there's an expectation that these companies uphold, and being able to go there and you see the expectations they uphold being met for like actually. We're at time, but I do feel like that we got a lot in this episode. I really do hope you guys enjoyed. Hopefully we can do some more career check-ins. This was more just casual talking about what's going on currently, but I do hope that you guys gained some knowledge, wisdom, and understanding to be insightful in technology. So thank you guys for tuning in.